Hi, I'm Joe Forace. This is Barry Staver. We're
Hi.
here in Barry's studio today, and we're here to answer your questions about mirrorless photography. So let's start with the first question. It's from John in Arlington, Texas. Hopefully he did okay in the big flooding down there. He says, I'm going to Arches National Park. Do you have any suggestions about gear to bring, good photo locations, or any tips in general? I've never been to Arches, but Barry's taught a workshop there, so let's have him get started.
Hi there. I'll chime in a bit, John. So, Arches, any other national park, any outdoor location, a good place to start is to go online to the site of the park or the venue that you're going to. And you can check out and you can see some other images. And certainly online these days, there's a bazillion photographs of all of these places, and you get a sense of that. You can, anymore online, find the map of the park, all the information you need. What I look at before even the photo locations and the gear is to talk to you about the specifics in a park. Arches, for example, has a very, very fragile landscape. There's signage all over. They don't want you to step off the trail, not a foot off the trail, because you can do damage to that landscape and the tundra that would take 100 years to recover. So that's something to think about. You always want to think about the weather that you're going into. It's pretty hot in Arches most year round, so
Really?
you want to
Year-round?
plan for that. That workshop I taught was in November, and it was hot. Of course,
Wow.
it got cold at night, so you need to plan for those things.
How cold was it?
Oh, I can't remember exactly,
But it was definitely chilly.
you need a jacket or sweater. Exactly so. So, what gear to bring? I mean, generally you think of landscape photography in a place like that, so wider lenses often do a really good job.
I'm always a big believer in wide-angle
But
lenses for landscape photography.
Yeah, but I bring telephoto.
You do?
'Cause,
I'll be
you can
darned.
find a great way to compress.
Did they have like buttes there
pictures.
like they do in
Well, not so much buttes, it's just these incredible rock formations. The first one I'm sure you're going to want, it's the signature rock formation is Delicate Arch. And it's a good hike to get to it. But we're going to put some still images of arches that I've taken on top of this blog post so you can get a sense of what it looks like. But again, you're going to find that it's your eye that's going to make the difference. You might like an angle that's taken 10 feet to the side of where your favorite picture is that you found online, and it should be your picture, not exactly the picture that someone else took. And you've done things in other parks in Utah.
Yeah, I've been to, Zion and also Bryce Canyon.
Okay.
Well, my favorite really is Zion. In fact, of any of the places I've ever shot infrared photography, Zion is hands down the most spectacular place to capture infrared images. I mean, if you have a converted camera, especially, where you can shoot handheld, you can just turn in 360 degrees and get amazing pictures. And Zion is, I don't have much fond memories of shooting in Bryce, although I know a lot of people have done stuff there. I guess I wasn't one of them. But as far as gear to bring, one of the things that we talked about earlier was the advantage of having a tripod, which brings us to another question we have here, which is, when do you use a monopod compared to a tripod, from Andy in Wichita? And when you were in Arches, did you find using a tripod was a handy thing, or did you use a monopod?
I found, and we'll go back to Arches just for a second, and then we'll get to the monopod tripod. Another great tool, there are apps for iPads and phones that will show you sunrise and sunset
Oh, yeah.
for a specific location, because maybe the best picture of a certain arch is early in the morning. So you don't want to be there in the afternoon. So you look online and you take it to the date that you're going to be there, and you just take the sunrise, sunset, and plan your trip that way. So you're at the arch that you want for the early shot, and then later in the day you go back to the formation that you want later. That's a great tool that has not been around back in the film days, certainly.
And my friend Royce Bear who lives in Salt Lake City, he shoots the arches at night using speedlights. And so don't feel like, although I guess walking around in the dark may be a challenge. I don't know what it's like
Well,
up
you
there.
know,
It probably
you
gets
need-
pretty dark, right?
Oh, definitely, and you need a good headlamp. And again, check the park because they might have hours where they're closed
Oh, no
nowadays.
kidding.
Oh, yeah. It's not unusual for those to not want people in there at certain hours. But monopod versus tripod, I believe I used a tripod there, and the people in the workshop did. And there's a couple reasons why. 99% of what I shoot is not on a tripod.
I would say that's true for myself as well.
Because it's more run and gun and on the go. The tripod will do one thing for you. It will put you in a place and make you think about your picture. Instead of just walking every 10 feet and shooting 50 pictures with the motor drive on this thing.
Well, here's another thing.
Sure.
Well, I don't mean to interrupt.
No.
One thing I found with a tripod is whenever you can use a tripod as compared to holding a camera, the people around you, if there are people around you, will give you some elbow room because they think you're a serious photographer. So, excuse me for interrupting.
No,
So that's
fine.
like another, not, it's part of the process, but you don't really think about it. Just like making you think about the picture by having the camera on a tripod.
Exactly. But then that brings up the other point of some places you're not allowed to use a tripod. I mean, certainly outdoors, most places are good with that, but museums, you're never going to take a tripod in there. They're not going to let you take it in the front door because it's a hassle with too many people that trip and stumble over them. So
it's a liability issue for them.
it is that.
I think even the Forney Museum, which is a local transportation museum, has cars and stuff, doesn't permit tripods. But what they do permit is Sunday morning early, they allow photographers in for a fee, and they can bring tripods.
There's always a fee now.
Yes.
There's always
It's
a fee. So back to Andy's question, a monopod will certainly help stabilize. But if you're doing really early morning shots or late at twilight and your exposure is longer, even with image stabilization, I mean, that's a time to turn the IS off. If you're on the tripod and you're going to get a much nicer shot with that early light.
Yeah, it's going to enable you to use a much lower ISO.
Right.
Instead of worrying about, and you can still shoot with small enough aperture, f/16 or whatever the heck it is, and get a really glorious, super depth of field, Ansel Adams, whatever effect.
Exactly. A monopod, if you're out hiking, is great. It becomes a walking stick as you're moving along. So there isn't a definite yes or no answer about any of these. Hopefully these tips are going to let you do some research and find out what's going to work the best for you.
Cool. Let's go to the next question, which
All
Barry and I talked about earlier that he thought was an interesting question, and that is there a right way and wrong way to hold the mirrorless camera? And Vicky from Tulsa asked that question. So, Barry
guess
said,
you've
right
been
or right? Okay, let's talk about holding a camera. Everybody knows it's pretty simple. If you got if you have a camera like this is Barry's new GH5. If you're shooting horizontal pictures, you shoot it like that. Everybody agrees. Now, we're going to shoot verticals. So we turn the camera this way, and this is the way some people shoot verticals with an elbow wagging in the air.
Kind of like a chicken wing.
Yeah, I never thought of that. It's kind of a chicken wing approach. I like that. Barry has the optional. How expensive is that? Do you remember?
Oh, it's
$200.
it was, 2 to 3, somewhere in there.
One of the advantages of battery grips, and I've written about this, and maybe I'll put a link down below where you can read about why I like battery grips, is how you do a vertical. And so you do it like this. Or like this if you want to hold it away from you. And the thing is now, if you hold it this way, you're much more stable than you are with the chicken wing approach. So battery grip is good, but even if you didn't have a battery grip, you could still hold it the same way without this grip in the way. You can still hold it this way. Get it close, tuck your elbows in, and you can get a better way to make a steady shot.
That's true. So Vicky, some other tips. I mean, that's a great way to tuck it in, but I'm always in tight like this. As close into my body as I can get when I'm shooting with
Even horizontals.
And my forehead is helping brace the camera.
Yeah. Which is
Get the
why
best shot.
all of Mary's cameras have makeup all over her eye cup.
It would certainly do that, wouldn't it? But how about the fact it's mirrorless? It's lighter weight. I've shot more images out here with this than I ever thought I would in my entire life. And it took a while to get used to looking through the viewfinder. But the smaller camera, it's easier for me to hold it and keep it stable. And again, with the image stabilization, that makes a huge difference. So another way, and it's so amazing to use this viewfinder turned out like that. I can shoot down on the ground. I don't have to get down on the ground anymore. I can just be down here.
We're overhead.
And the Hail Mary shot becomes just a piece of cake to be doing it like that. So that's some tips on how to hold that
I
camera.
have one more unusual one.
Okay.
And this works with cameras that have pop-up flashes. This
Okay.
doesn't have.
Oh, it does.
It
Mhm.
does.
Sure.
Where's the flash?
Well, I don't know. There's a little button on the side that'll pop it up. I don't use it, so I haven't figured it out.
It doesn't really matter, but the big question I was going to say is, one of the things when I go to car shows, that when you're shooting cars at low angles, the undersides are usually the sun's out, there's shadows underneath. I would hold the camera upside down, have the flash popped up, and then it's awkward as can be. But again, as Barry just pointed out, you still trip the shutter. And with the flash low like that, the flash is going to shoot in underneath of the car and light up the underneath. And a lot of cars at car shows, like the one I just went to this past weekend, have really fancy, undersides, chrome, and nice details. And if you just shoot it normally, even with the camera on a low angle with the screen flipped out, you're going to get shadows. So if you turn it upside down, pop the flash up, and bang, Bob's your uncle.
Nice.
That's my tip of the day.
Those are great
the upside
tips.
down flash tip.
All right. So we're
so
almost
done.
done. It went so
I
fast.
can't believe it. This was so much fun. I can't. Well, we really enjoyed hearing from you. If you click on the contact button up there and send us your questions, we'll be sure to include it in a future podcast. So, Barry, thank you so much.
Joe,
It's been
you got it.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Always a great seeing you. And we'll see you at the next podcast. Thank you very much.
Adios.